The rise of MCP, how the next internet is being built. The story of the internet has always been one of evolution. What began as a collection of static pages became an interactive web, and that web transformed again into platforms dominated by centralized giants. But now, something different is happening beneath the surface. A new layer of digital infrastructure is taking form, one that doesn't rely on the old servers and platforms paradigm. It's being built around the Model Context Protocol, MCP, and its rise signals the most dramatic shift in how humans and machines interact since the birth of the web itself. MCP is not just another protocol. It's the connective tissue of a world where AI agents, digital services, and human interfaces are no longer isolated silos but cooperative nodes in a living network. Unlike traditional APIs that only speak to predetermined systems, MCP allows AI agents to reach into tools, applications, devices, and databases in real time, pulling in relevant capabilities on demand. Instead of requiring developers to build a separate integration for every platform, MCP creates a shared language that any compliant system can understand. This dissolves the boundaries that keep today's internet fragmented and pushes forward a model where intelligence flows freely across contexts. The emerging MCP-based architecture moves away from the dominance of apps, browsers, and login-based platforms. In the traditional internet, the user must know which service to visit, how to access it, and what interface to navigate. In the MCP-enabled layer, the user can simply state intent, and the agent, powered by MCP, selects the correct tool or service automatically. Rather than visiting a dozen websites to complete a task, people will increasingly interact through a unified conversational or agentic interface. The agent becomes the browser, the operating system, the assistant, and the gateway to both public and private services. And yet, humans are no longer the only users of the web. AI agents themselves are becoming first-class citizens of the network, capable of connecting, reasoning, and cooperating. The ecosystem taking shape around MCP is wildly different from the controlled worlds of app stores and proprietary ecosystems. In the era of mobile apps, a developer built a product that lived in isolation, with only limited intentional integrations. Platforms acted as gatekeepers, deciding who could connect and how. MCP opens the doors instead. Any tool, from a spreadsheet to an enterprise database to a robotic system, can expose its functions in a standardized, agent-readable format. This turns the internet into a service layer defined by intent instead of clicks or code. The concept is already being embraced by developers and platforms who are beginning to reimagine legacy software as MCP-aware services. A customer relationship management system no longer needs a graphical dashboard to be usable. An MCP-enabled agent can make sense of its functions and bring only what is needed directly to the user. A research database doesn't need a search UI. It just needs MCP compatibility. Under MCP, the tools themselves expose functionality directly, and the agent orchestrates everything according to user-defined rules. This shifts not only usability but security models and governance. Identity and trust are being re-engineered at the protocol layer. The implications for business are enormous. Companies that used to compete over user acquisition through interfaces will now compete over capability exposure and trustworthiness within the MCP network. Enterprises will be less focused on building all-in-one platforms and more on exposing their best services as agent-accessible modules. The companies doing this earliest will become core infrastructure in the next-generation internet. Even consumer-facing apps will evolve or disappear. Most people will rarely download anything in the traditional sense. The notion of a website becomes abstracted into a callable service that may never be seen directly. The rise of MCP suggests that the next internet is not something you visit, it's something that acts on your behalf. The operating system of the future may not be a screen filled with icons, but a persistent agent capable of dynamically connecting to MCP-enabled services behind the scenes. The browser may fade into a thin interface or vanish altogether. The phone, the laptop, and the smart speaker may simply become access points to a pervasive intelligence layer built on these protocols. Developers are beginning to realize that this architecture favors those who think in terms of agents, tools, and orchestration rather than static UIs. AI models will be trained not merely to generate text or images, but to reason about complex tasks and call MCP-compatible tools to complete them. MCP redefines interoperability by placing intelligence at the center of integration. It forces a shift in mindset from, how do I build this feature into my app? To, how do I expose this ability so agents can use it across contexts? This transition also signals the decline of walled gardens. Just as TCP/IP allowed networks to interconnect beyond the control of any single actor, MCP will help break down app silos and proprietary integrations. Platforms may attempt to create private MCP variants, but the incentive for compatibility will be too strong to resist. The technical community already sees how MCP could form the basis for a universal agent ecosystem, much the way HTML and HTTP became the lingua franca of the web. But unlike the early internet, this one is being built in a world already dominated by massive amounts of computation, data, and automation. That means its adoption could be dramatically faster. There will be resistance. Legacy platforms will hesitate to yield control. Regulators will confront new questions around security and accountability. Users will need new mental models for what it means to let agents act autonomously. But these challenges are not barriers. They are signals that a paradigm is shifting. Every major leap in internet history came with skepticism and uncertainty, until it became normal. MCP is the scaffolding of something that will soon feel inevitable. The most striking part of this transformation is that it's not waiting for formal launch or corporate announcement. It's already being implemented quietly inside developer tools, APIs, and agent frameworks. As more services become MCP aware, density increases until a tipping point is reached and the architecture becomes self-sustaining. At that moment, the experience of interacting with the internet will cease to resemble the page and platform model we've known for decades. Instead of logging in, clicking, and navigating, people will simply speak, request, or delegate. Agents will handle the rest. The foundations are being laid right now, not in big public launches, but in the quiet work of builders who see beyond the screen. The shift won't come with a single moment of announcement. One day, people will simply notice they no longer spend their time navigating websites or switching between apps. Instead, they will speak to intelligent agents who assemble the right combination of capabilities using MCP. The sensation of using the internet will fade, replaced by the feeling that information, services, and action are available at the speed of thought. That will be the moment the next internet arrives, not with fanfare but with inevitability. And when someone asks how it was built, the answer will be simple: it rose from the Model Context Protocol.